Hello, Kristen here. I'm doing one of my rather regular last second adverts for the next episode of Jesus, A Life in History, which is episode 7. We could think of it as a journey south, but also it's about a new team or a new team structure. So in episode 6, we just finished looking at, we'd gone through the Sermon on the Mount, where we've already got some of Jesus' disciples with him. After the Sermon on the Mount, we find Jesus calling Matthew for a very specific reason, which we looked at last time, to be his documenter, to be the person who covers his ministry and gets it recorded properly. And so we're starting just at that kind of point in the next episode, and I'm calling it a journey south because most of the text that we're going to be looking at as we integrate all 4 of the Gospels into a single narrative. If this is the first time you've seen this, just a quick reminder about what the integrated text is and what Jesus' life in history is. We're taking every significant word, every word, in other words, not the ands and the thes, but everything else from the 4 Gospels. We've turned them into a single narrative and we've anchored them into a real historical context. There's a key moment actually in this episode which really does nail down some of the dates. But anyway, you have to come to see if you want to find out what that is. So in this episode, Jesus is going to take a journey down to the south with his disciples. That group is still more than the 12, but it includes now probably all 12 of the 12. And it's going to conclude with a kind of almost revisiting of the Sermon on the Mount, which we often refer to as the Sermon on the Plain, and the actual appointment out of that group of the 12 that we think of as kind of team leaders for the next phase. So it's a really great, fantastic little excursion and a journey through all 4 of the Gospels come into this week's story. Or into this coming episode's kind of narrative, which is on the 17th of May at King's Church. It's just over a week away now as I'm recording this. As I said, my apologies. I always leave it to the last second before getting news out. But hopefully you can make it. You're welcome to join us. It's really good for anyone who wants to understand the story of Jesus, which is like, often the way I think about it is I'm so sure that God has acted into the world, and the way he has acted is into history, and the key way he's acted into history is by dropping himself into it and creating ripples out. And so actually understanding that story is fundamental to our growth in our Christian life. We often think of the Christian ethics which Jesus taught. We looked at in the Sermon on the Mount. They'll come up again this time in the Sermon on the Plain. But actually, at the heart of everything is the action of God's incarnation into the human story in history. So anyway, hopefully I'll see some of you, or as many as possible, on May the 17th at King's Church, King's Place, Station Road in Wokingham, as we unravel and unpack the details of this fascinating story. So see you then. Bye-bye.